Welcome to the Upset Podcast. Tonight we are talking about your honey and your money, how couples handle finances. Coming up next. And we're back here. As you can see, we are live at the end of Camc Con 2024 Refresh. For those who don't know, Camc Con is our communication conference that we hold here annually at Allegheny East Conference. But of course, you can see I'm not alone. I'm with the crew. Hey guys.
Hey.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
We outside.
Yes, isn't it great to be together?
Ooh, I love when we're together.
I know, we're like looking side to side instead of just at our screens. This is amazing.
Sitting at the welcome table.
That's right. So I mentioned that we are wrapping up our communication conference, Camc Con, and for those of us who were there, Pat, what'd you guys think? I mean, did you learn anything?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
It was awesome.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
GP was one of our speakers.
Well,
too,
from
so.
the outside looking in. No, and really, it was. I saw all the pictures of the hashtags, and
You're welcome, by the way.
yes, yes, you are Amy. Welcome.
That's true, I am.
But honestly, I was able to keep up from Friday night all the way through. I was able to keep up just for it being on our social media. So I felt like my eyes were there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we had some great presenters. We had Alyssa Truman from the GC. She's the Assistant Communication Director. So learned a lot from her personally, just talking to her one-on-one, as well as her presentation.
And it was interesting when she told us not to use SDA.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows what that means, you know.
And there are
how many
some
times we
other-
just throw out SDA
Yeah.
online and all this.
And the acronym means something else in other contexts, so it's important. And also we had a power couple that presented at Camc Con this year.
All right.
Andre and Davita Benson from Germantown. They presented.
Philly in the house.
Yay. They did an awesome job sharing with us. We also had a special speaker on Sabbath,
Uh-huh.
none other than GP himself.
That's right. GP, are you with me?
He said, it's time for an upgrade. That's what he told the people. It's time for an upgrade.
It's time. It's time.
It's time.
And we also had Everett Wiles, who is from YU. He's he's the VP for Integrated Marketing there at Washington Adventist University.
okay.
And he did a phenomenal workshop, hands-on training for streaming.
Yeah.
I just learned so much. I feel like I'm ready to like be a floor manager, a director, a camera operator. I feel so equipped now.
Did
so.
you do that Saturday night?
Today.
Today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really great, and it was just great to see how everyone was engaged. I love Camc Con, so I'm just grateful that most of you could be here.
Yeah.
And,
I'm excited about 2025 and that Camc Con cruise.
Yes,
Oh,
that's the plan. It'll be 10 years of
It is
Camc Con.
starting to go viral.
I'll be
there.
Apparently.
I feel, and that's the reason why I said it. You know, you have to create that accountability. They're
Existence,
expecting
you know.
it. So, So we decided what better way to end Camc Con than to just have our live broadcast. So guys, for the first time ever in Upset podcast history, we actually have a live audience.
Ever in history.
You can't see them, but we can. That's what matters.
But you will hear them.
Yes, you will.
Yes.
And they will act as our live chat today, so we're excited. So our topic, this is the end of Financial Literacy Month, and each week we've been covering another topic that relates to money in some way. And so we thought it would be great to end talking about how couples handle finances. Yeah, that can get a little dicey. We know.
Natalie?
So we're not afraid of having difficult conversations, right, guys?
No.
No.
We are never scared.
That's right.
Right.
We're upset.
They don't have any tomatoes here, so we
Now, two of our panelists up here, two of the crew, they actually have their honeys in the room. So,
We'll be careful.
we have fact checkers here, and so we just want to put that out there.
Absolutely.
But first of all, we identified that finances ranks as one of the top 3 reasons that couples get divorced.
Yes.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, I think they
Yes.
said 20 to 40% of divorces stem from some type of conflict as it relates to finances, which is why we wanted to go ahead and tackle this topic. So there's so many angles we can start with, but I really want to start with, when do you even have the conversation about finances? Is it when you're dating, guys? Is it after you get married? Is it the first date even? What do you guys think
Not the first
is
date.
when that initial conversation about finances should take place between a couple? Like, how serious do that need to be? What do you guys think?
I think you start dropping clues based on that first date, right? Whether or not you believe in 50-50, and I know that's a hot topic today. Where you bring the young lady, it all indicates on how you, it's all an indicator on how you spend money. But that conversation should happen early on when you establish that you are serious about that individual and you want to be in a committed relationship. You should begin to start having those conversations and also making room for the fact that we are growing people. So my beliefs 10 years ago may change 10 years later, and communicating through those changes about how you view money,
Yeah.
And you said on the first date?
I think there are indicators on the first date.
Like what?
Yeah.
So,
tell us.
okay,
Because we would be called a gold digger if I
No,
said,
no, no.
yeah, how much money you make?
What I'm saying is,
You
on the
pick up
first
on
date,
things.
if he brings you to some
Cheesecake
5-star, Michelin restaurant on the first date, he's giving you a clue on how he views you and how he views his money. Now,
He could be taking his bill money to pay
he
for the
could.
date.
He
That's
could.
true.
And that's an indicator
Yep.
of how he handles his money.
Exactly.
He is a terrible steward of his money, right? Or if he's frugal and he wants to bring you to somewhere that's still affordable and nice, he might bring you to Cheesecake Factory, right?
Yep.
That's not a
that was a
proper
hot
date.
Like
topic.
cheesecake.
That was crazy.
Poor cheesecake.
And those are indicators, not saying those are when the conversations start.
You're just paying
But
attention.
you just kind of start paying attention to some of those clues.
Miggs, I learned from Dr. Wright. I do 12 sessions, and one of them is finances, of course.
Yeah.
And one thing I learned from him is that they should share their FICO scores
Ooh.
Credit
with each
scores.
other
Okay.
early.
Okay.
Just to be able, that's not an indicator of whether you're going to be with the person or not, but that is an indicator to whether or not they're caring or watching over their own finances,
Yeah.
because here in the United States, credit is everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And so
Unless you
I
just moved to the United States.
okay, it's still everything.
Saying.
No, and so I think that's important, because even though we say finances which causes divorce, there's really communication behind that, the
Yeah,
financing
yeah.
that we deal with. I mean, I'm ready to tell my story.
So I'll chime in a little bit. I think that the whole point of dating is gathering data.
Yes.
So you need to know that information, maybe not on the first date, but over time, as you spend time with them, get to know about how they think, how they move. Even if they're putting up a facade the first 6 months, you will eventually get to know them as time goes on. And so take your time, gather your data, and move with wisdom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if one would not want to share their financial history, what they do, would that
Red
be
flag,
a sign?
red
Yeah.
flag,
Yeah.
red flag.
Communication is.
I would be curious as to know what's behind that, right? If it's a matter of shame, or if they come from a family where finances are synonymous with sexual intimacy, right? Then I could understand some of those, but I would still want to know if you are responsible with money or not. I may not need to know everything.
You know, Miggs, in my 29 years, it changed along the way.
Yeah.
When we first began, it was everything go into this one pot, and she would give me allowance. All right? Really, I'm not even joking. I take allowance, and you just do everything. Then, after the years have gone by, I kind of wanted things. So I spend money. I'll buy big things, while she would buy little things. So, like one day I came home with a car.
Just a car,
Without
right?
discussion.
Yeah, without discussion.
Not a model car.
No, Doc.
Not an RC car.
Yeah, man, I remember I was in a board meeting, and I
Okay.
was so frustrated in the board meeting, I stopped at the delership and picked up a car right there on the spot. And it was the worst thing that I've ever done,
I
and
would
it
think so.
caused a whole lot of rift over the next 7-8 months because I couldn't pay back then that $900 a month. I just couldn't pay it. $900 a month. So what happens that then after that we're now in the okay, she has to watch me because
Trust is
I'm
broken.
more
Impulsive
of that
spending.
impulsive spending, but it's not small things.
It's big.
It's big things. So I'll give another one. Like I'll go to the music store and buy a keyboard, and that keyboard is $4,000 keyboard.
right.
So she just took every card away and
Yes,
all
I
my
agree with
spending.
that.
And literally, I get like $300 a month for me.
So you have to save up for those big purchases now.
No, she would take out the 300.
I want to say
Out of
to
that.
Pat, because I know you're a pastor, I know what you make. I'm not going to say it online, but you're the big spender. But your wife gets a big check, you get the small check, but she makes the small expenses, you make the big expenses. It's interesting, but the reality is whether you're rich or poor, you know, your habits will determine how well you live. There are people who make $5 million a year, but they're broke.
Yeah.
And there are people who make $30,000 a year, but they're living just fine.
Yeah.
So it's not about how much you make, but what are you doing with what you have?
GP, the hardest thing for us, and we're not all the way there, is to talk about it. Just can't find the time. When it's time to talk about it, I don't want to talk about it. When it's time for me to talk about it, she don't want to talk about it because we know if I want to talk about it, it's something she did. Or if she wants to talk about it, it's something I did. I think that it's appropriate now for us to be like in some type of program, a disciplined program, to be, and I'm not broke, but imagine I don't have to be broke.
Compared to her, you're broke.
No, but I don't have to be broken. Imagine how
Right.
we would be
Yeah.
if there was more discipline going
Yeah.
that way instead of just, okay, I like this, I want this, I'm going to buy this.
Yeah, that speaks to the psychology of money, and we talk about indicators on the first day. I think we've spoken about this behind cameras, right? It's not necessarily finances that break marriages.
Yeah.
It's all of the baggage that we bring into this marriage. Baggage could be both good and bad, right? But we bring with us a viewpoint on money.
Yep.
And we're not able to communicate it because we were just raised in these households where it was normal for, let's say, mom to avoid the bills because she didn't have the money. So we don't talk about that stack of papers in the corner. Or dad used money to control mom and the kids. So, you know, any type of budgeting word sounds like
Cursing.
cursing because you're stripping the power from me, right?
Yes, sir.
You know, and so when we enter into a marriage and we don't have the language to paint the picture of where we're coming from, we enter into these unions and we love each other. We have a whole lot of honey, but we can't discuss the money, and things come to an head when Pat, you know, I'm using you for this example.
Please.
Yep, use them.
You're not sure how to handle stress,
Right, that's right.
and so you
That's right.
you make a swing at a car, and now your marriage is, unstable. But man, that thing might turn into something else.
Yeah.
It may not be the money. It might be another avenue of not handling your stress. And so there are multiple levels and layers when we talk about, you know, our handling of money within a marriage.
Real quick, you hit on something real quick. When I was growing up, my mom had one of those marble composition books,
Yep.
the black composition books, and she would write down each one, and she would always start with tithe. There's just no second guess. It was tithe, it was offering, then it was mortgage, and then all the way down. She would bring it to all of us to show us that this is the way it ought to be. Well, if your spouse is not grown up that way,
Yeah.
then you're going to be at, and remember now, I've watched my father bring, at that time, checks home. You know, they just bring the check and put the check on the table. So you end up doing the same thing of how you grew up.
Correct.
But if you grew up with a spouse that did not have that type of stability, or if you grew up with, or if you're going from pillar to post, pillar to post, pillar to post, then what's going to happen is that's how you think you ought to live. So there's a lot in, you know, we go back to dating, there's a lot to discuss when you're talking about dating. Dating is not much more fixing your hair and looking this way and that way, but there's also a spiritual connotation that deals with that too, because my wife and I, we were not even on the same wavelength as far as how much to give for offering. You know what I'm saying? Because my mom did 10 and 10.
Okay.
And so you growing up saying 10 and 10, if your wife said, nah, 10 and 5.
Or 10 and tip.
Or 10 and tip. Yeah, no, or 10 and tip. Hold on. Or I don't believe in this anymore. I don't think this, I'd rather give my tithe to the Salvation Army or 3ABN or Camc Con or, well, no, not Camc Con, but you know, no, but people do that. People do that. Whatever they're convinced to give to, I may say, this is what I want to give to, and they will say, no, I'd rather give this to the homeless shelter or whichever, which has another split when you're dealing with communication with each other and budgeting.
So let's take it back to that dating phase, because I think a lot of couples find out later that they missed asking questions they should have asked during that dating stage. So what are some things that you think are important to discuss? I mean, and I'll start off with one that Miguel kind of alluded to, and that is, how did your family handle money? I listened to this podcast by Ramit Sethi called How to Get Rich. Oh, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And he always has couples on there who are talking about challenges with finances, and he always asks them that question. And it's so much of a revelation for them in the moment. They've never thought about it before, and it pretty much dictates how they trend towards treating money, as you mentioned. So that's one of the questions that I don't think I was asked in premarital counseling. I don't know. Is that part of the 12? Is that part of the finance?
It is. Finance is going to be a part of 12, and it's early. I think it's like 4.
And do you ask them how their family handled money?
Yes. You ask them how their family, and will you replicate the same? Will you replicate the same?
Yeah.
And most say no. Most young couples will say, no, I don't want to do it that way. We have already figured out a way to do it. And to me, if you figured out a way to do it, you should go with that. It's whoever abused what it is that's already set up. Because some plan has to work either way. For like my household, in dating, I still like big stuff. I still like big things. I still like, studio stuff. I still like all of that.
No Diddy.
And I wanted the big car. Meanwhile, she drove the 1984 Honda Accord, and she drove it for life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think the biggest thing with finance is that you have to come to a conclusion of, at least for a beginning, of where are we both going to go. You have to have a plan.
All right. So what else are we asking? FICO score? Somebody said.
What
Student
phase
loan
of dating?
debt.
Student loan debt. How much debt are you in? That's a good one.
Are we talking about like engagement dating, or like 6 months in, a year in dating?
Miguel,
Like,
how
what
did-
age?
I
Miguel,
think you're definitely going to
just
have the
asking.
conversation if the person
I'm
is
just
a
asking.
keeper.
Yeah.
If it's somebody you
If
just
someone you
hanging
want
out,
to be serious
yeah.
with.
How she look? I mean,
But no, some people use that to determine whether they want to date someone further. Like, how are you with finances? You're not okay, and then they move on. Like, they don't even want the conversation to go beyond the pocketbook.
that's a red flag then, producer. I think that if you don't want to discuss where we are, what's going, I mean, if you're taking your check to the liquor store, that's a problem. I think only city people understand that. But, I mean, that's a problem. And there are literally people our age right now that can't open checking accounts because we've abused the checking accounts. So I think they're red flags because it's not just about money. It's really about how you communicate and what you give to each other. That's
All right.
my thought.
I think our audience member, yay, we have an audience. Sorry. Has a comment or question. Go ahead.
I have a question. What are your thoughts about couples helping each other to build their financial literacy. Or I know that the comment came up, well, depending on someone's financial situation, I may not want to date them anymore, but what if they acknowledge, like, hey, I know that I'm not where I need to be financially, two is better than one. Like, how do you handle that situation? And depending on where you are dating / maybe you're engaged / marriage, like, how do you handle that?
I'm gonna let Amy
That's a
answer
great
that first.
question. Great question.
Why?
I'm still new. Well, I would say, yes. It depends on where they are now. If someone is at a different space of recognizing I've made some mistakes with my finances, I don't want to continue down this path, and they are welcoming your help to get there, yes, I can do that. Now, if they want your help to get out of it just so they can go back into doing the same thing, no,
right.
we're not doing that. So it's really kind of assessing whether this is a genuine shift in a mindset and we're ready to make some changes and we're in this thing together. I'm all for it. But I'm not bailing you out just for you to do it again and say, well, we're together now, so it's your debt, my debt.
Yeah, I would say I think it's a delicate and interesting question because on one hand, if you can join a program together that teaches those principles, that way you're kind of both along this journey. Then sure, yeah, let's do that. I would be cautious if someone's teaching me something as dynamic as finances, because I don't want them to view me forever as their project or their student. At some point, we have to get equal footing, right? And a part of that is being responsible, as you're learning and being open, being humble throughout that process. But I don't think there's anything wrong, but also you got to find the right teacher as well, the person who's willing to go with you on that journey. Because I'll say, my wife and I, we met each other in college. What conversation are we having? When we
make good grades.
So we had to learn, finances, and we're still learning, budgeting and finances, and we're growing together along this journey. But for those who are not in that element, yes, I think it's going to be a conversation and a willingness to learn.
And I want to add, because I understand if you have a nice mate, that you feel like they're worth investing if there are weaknesses and we can make the thing better. And I would say, see professionals that can really teach you with, budgeting and savings, and getting out of debt. And I think those things are very important. One issue is that I find, and I think because of the black culture, a lot of times we just don't have money, right? And when we get money, we spend it. We spend it on stuff we really want to do. And so sometimes the topics can be hard, when you're talking about money. Sometimes people are trying to put up the beware, sign if someone is a gold digger, or if someone is a moocher, they're just trying to get everything out of you, so you're already putting up your guardrails. So I think if the person is a keeper, because let's say, they appear spiritual, right? Appear spiritual, they love Jesus, right?
Form of godliness.
So form, maybe we can make it real, as long as they're willing, and you see that they're willing, but if you start to feel signs, if Jesus putting up red flags, don't be saying, Jesus, put the flag down. Everything's going to be all right. When you listen to the flags, watch the flags.
Yeah. All right, we have another comment from our audience.
Yes, actually, the national debt is approaching $34 trillion. And the average American spends more time planning a vacation, like Camc Con cruise, than doing financial literacy. And not because I'm a financial professional, but my question to you all is, I can see there's 3 ministers on the platform. 4. I apologize, Pastor Marlena. How do you all approach in your congregations by having financial literacy? GP has called me to do one at his church, and I will. But what are you all doing to make sure that your congregation can budget properly, to tithe properly, and combine budget properly? What are you all doing? And Pat, like your mom, my dad gave my mom his check. I'll never do that. And no indictment on my wife because she'll be watching, but I'm just saying. So what are you all doing as pastors?
I'll share.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, in the month of April, our theme from our churches was recession-proof. And every Sabbath, every Wednesday night, we were deep diving on how to get out of debt, how to be better stewards of the 85 to 90% that God allows us to manage. And so just being intentional about being practical and giving them the tools and connections that can help them move in the right direction and change the mindsets that keep us digging holes into debt. So that's what I've done in my little corner of Virginia. And I hope to keep it going year round and not just talk about money when it's time to bring you all the tithes to the storehouse.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marlena.
I have had Financial Peace University programs through the whole thing, but I can tell you, sir, only a few people would come. Kit was just $199. I'd give you the money if you came, right? But that's why I say it's a hard conversation for some people. You know, they might feel, I don't even have enough to save. That's why we had that show, because some people feel like, I don't even have enough money to save money, right? And so that's why I think as a culture, it's really important for us to keep teaching, because even if you can only get a few at a time to listen and understand, that's a few more than you had.
Yeah.
So this is why, this kind of conversation is very important. And I just want to say, along with Pat, I don't do 12 lessons, but I do 8 with my couples. But we discuss finances because it will wreck a marriage, right? Especially if someone is spending all the money and the bills aren't being paid, and if you're trusting somebody to pay the bills. So I always ask, who's good with paying bills, right? I ask right out, who's good? And because there's always one that isn't. Every now and then you might, and then you're like, huh? It's both of you? You're shocked, right? And so, hopefully, yeah. So if there is one, right, you say, make sure they handle the mortgage, the car payments and utilities. Make sure they do that. But, we try and teach them, because I even, set up a budget plan with them. But it's all about doing it, right? I mean, you can talk about it. And we all know when you first get married or you're dating, your days are different, right?
Yeah.
But after a while, this is my money, right? And stuff starts to change. And so you just want to make sure you do what you say you're going to do and be a team about it. Not, me, no, this is mine, no, that's yours, be a team about it.
No, that transitions us actually to how couples deal with finances. Let's say they are married. Are we combining our income into one checking account? Is it our money when you get married, or is it your money, my money? Your money, my
you
money.
make it in 2024.
Yes. Or is it some of the money is our money and some of it's my money? There's so many variations of this.
The question is, do we believe in what God says about marriage? Do you become one or no?
With everything but the checking account.
So but the money. Okay. All right.
Everything but
Okay.
All right, so I think that, all right, so I'm gonna combine both questions. What I've done at church is kind of what we do at home. For this quarter, we're focusing on finances, right? And of course, like Dr. Marlena has said, there are a lot of people who are uncomfortable having the public conversation surrounding finances, right? Because for some people, it's an indication of character. Even at home, you start, looking at FICO scores, you start thinking about all the regrettable decisions you've made, and now you've got this, this thing on your back. So what we did was, the first sermon I preached at church dealt with creating the vision.
What was the title of the sermon? I just want
Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Create the vision of what life would be, especially as minorities, if we went to church and never had a testimony of, well, I thank Jesus, I got a bill past due, and somehow a check just slipped into the door.
That's right. Wow. That's right.
What if we came to church and said, man, praise God, there was a person in need of housing, and we were able to create solution for
That's
that
right.
person in need for housing or whatever the case may be, that our church would be able to move beyond just surviving as a people and begin to enter into a phase where we're thinking about how far this ministry can go. Thank God for COVID in some regards, that we got to see the value
Yes,
of technology
yeah, yes.
and the value
Yes.
of the go ye therefore beyond the walls. What happens if we start to put the dollars
Right.
behind that and begin to look at ministry and how we can partner, and not just church, I say individual ministry. There's a ministry that God has placed on every single
right.
person
That's right.
at the church. But we don't have the funds because it's tied up paying a credit card at 22%.
Yep.
We're paying off a car note at 12%.
That's right.
We got this and we got that. And by the time we get down to what we can give,
It's nothing.
we're at zero.
So
we
did
gotta
you get to your
start
second
there.
part? Because I know you said you had two.
No, that's the two. That's the
Yeah,
two right
two
there.
put together.
That's the two.
No, the
Yeah.
reason why I'm saying it that way, I was just talking to my church yesterday, and I said the spirituality of this church will only go as high as the spirituality of its leaders.
Mercy.
All right. And it was just that quiet when I said it.
Mercy.
And really, the reason why it was that quiet is because no one is thinking of all those leaders who get up and make the statements that we make. I remember growing up and hearing pastors say things like, make sure there's a hole in your shoe so that when you pray and you turn backwards, the members of the church can see that you got a hole in your shoe, that you need help somewhere. No, I'm telling you, this is what I
never heard that.
and pastors,
Only in New York. Only in New
Only in
York.
New York.
I've never heard that.
And the thing about it is that what I'm introducing to the church is this. There should only be tithing,
Yeah.
and there should only be your combined budget. But if all these other facets in your church, Sabbath school, this one, blah, 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 Pathfinders, all the way, because asking for money, you're digging from the same spot, right?
Yeah.
And everybody is given. We don't treat our homes that way, or we should not treat our homes that way. What we see happening in the church is actually what's happening in the house. So I'm going to go to Latasha's and answer it this way. Things changed over the 29 years. We used to put in one pot, and pride gets in the way. Sometimes pride gets in the way, right? Because you get to this point where it's like, I want this, I want that, I want the other, and she's like, next month. And then when that month comes up, it's like next month and next month. So what ends up happening, where we are right now, forget about all the time. Now we have one pot, her pot, my pot, and the savings pot. So it's literally like four accounts, I'm gonna call it accounts, and they all have security on each one of them. And we both have security on each one of them. So if it goes over this amount in this one, or this one has been withdrawn, our phones are gonna go off. You see what I'm saying? I'm sorry that we have to do that, but the point is that if we wanna get to this goal, and I know that I'm nasty at this, and she's nasty at this, then we have to put parameters.
Checks and balances. Yeah.
We have to put
Checks and
something in the way
balances.
so that it can be done.
Yeah.
I remember even buying a truck, and I'm saying, I need this truck because I like to take the youth from here to here. That was my big excuse.
Blaming the youth.
Yep, I sure did. And now I'm at the point where if I could just get rid of this truck and really, and get a 2014 car that's already paid off. You understand what I'm saying?
Tesla.
Well, I always wanted a Tesla, but the real thing is that now that I'm looking at it down the road, I now have to say to myself, you got to be more careful because we're getting older.
Right.
Here's the other side of it that I wanted to share with you. Now we wanted to make sure our FICO scores were high.
Yeah.
So we make sure we pay off this bill, pay off that bill, pay off this one. And she was close to 800 and I was over 700. It was great. My son wanted a car. And me as Big Daddy said, I'm going to get my son a car. You got to pay this amount. This is what you can. And he missed 3 payments. I'm literally, and I don't mind saying it because I hope it helps somebody. Now she's up there in the close to the 8. And I'm now back down to like 5 something.
My Lord.
You see what I'm saying? And it's hard to build it,
Yep.
but it's easy to drop, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because I haven't really taught my children because I didn't want my children to be as confined as when we were growing up and we had to wear the Pro-Keds while everybody wore the Nikes, and we had to, no, but it's serious. I didn't want that to happen. But now I am where I am. At this age, you have to pull back and say, okay, son, I'm going to pay half of this until you can get to this, or park the car over here. And it's hard language, but
It's necessary.
it's necessary. It's necessary.
Now, you brought up something that I think is important for couples to understand. I know, Pat, you said you've been married 29 years. I'm going on 19 this year, and I will say that the way my husband and I have handled money has changed over the years.
Yes.
When we first got married, I think I was a little bit more financially conscious. I was, I knew what to do, all the things, and I just took the lead with the finances. And Andre, he went along with it because he saw that as a strength of mine. But I noticed that over time, it started to say, well, where's the money going? Like, it's not that he didn't trust me, but it was like, I'm just working and my money's just going in and going out. And I picked up on the fact that he felt like he had no ownership of what was happening with our finances. And he even said to me one day, I just feel like I'm just working to just work and there's nothing left. And so I said, we need to shift this thing because he needs to have some ownership. And so then I said, okay, well, you are responsible for paying this half of the bills, and I'll pay this half of the bills. And then we went through a phase where, wait, why do we have a late notice? Oh yeah, when was that due? I'm like, wait, hold up there now. If you want to be involved, you're gonna have to stay on top of things,
Right.
And then we got that together, and then we went to a different phase of, like, I'll say where we are now. Our money is together, but it's separate. And I'll explain that. So we have two accounts.
That sounds like church and state.
So we have two accounts.
Right.
One account my check goes into, one account his check goes into.
Right.
We have divided the bill. We've met together as a couple, looked at all of our bills, and decided this is what you will pay from your check, this is what you will pay, I will pay from my check. We know what each other is paying. We know what's going in each account. We both have access to each account.
See, that's what I mean, yeah.
However, we realized that something came from him paying the bills, and me paying. I needed it too. I realized I'm not a controlling person, but there's a certain level of security I want to have with my finances.
Well, when it comes to the podcast,
Hey, watch it, buddy. Cut his mic.
We will not confirm nor deny.
But no, and I think that has really worked for us, even though it's not what I had in my mind as the perfect scenario. I was a one-pot girl. Like, one pot, we see it, everybody sees what's going on. But it wasn't working for us. And I think it's okay for couples to discuss, is this working? Is it not working? How can we adjust it so that we're both happy in the relationship? And I love it when, like, Andre, when he pays the mortgage, because that's one of his bills, I'll say, he'll come to me and say, I paid the mortgage. And I see this sense of, like, pride in his face, like, I'm taking care of business, I'm the man of this house, kind of thing. And I realized that was something he needed, and it works for us. So I'm just saying to couples out there, it doesn't always have to follow this cookie cutter situation as long, but I do believe there should be transparency. There shouldn't be any hidden business going on.
And also, I like what Pat was saying about having one pot for all the bills, right? Well, whatever the contribution is from both halves. Financial peace teaches you pay your tithe first, then pay yourself, right? So in paying yourself, that goes in your pot, that goes in her pot. Because I don't know about you, when I get paid, I want some spending money.
Yeah.
But I have work, you know what I'm saying? I have a treat on every Wednesday. I'm getting my Whopper, Impossible Whopper, So because I don't work hard for 2 weeks, right? I don't want to just put it all in the bills, right? And I certainly don't want to ask anybody for money when I just work 80 hours, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm saying, right? And then how many of us, because I'm 50-ish, right? We a little older, right? Grandmama said, always keep a little something for yourself, right? keep a little something in your family, right? And because that was in
Yeah.
case
Yeah.
dude got controlling
Yeah.
and wouldn't give you any money, right?
Financial
And so, this is my TV husband, Natalie. You know, so you got to
I
have
think y'all
something-
told on me though, because I think when we were in the green room in our pre-meeting, I told you guys how I stole money. She caught me this week. What I used to do is, now, I'd
Do
go
not
to,
try this at home. Sorry.
I would take, you know how it says cash back?
Yeah.
So I'd go ahead and I'll buy whatever grocery and then do the cash back 15, cash back 10 and put it in my pocket. She was like, why is this? This is right after I told you guys my secret.
She was in the house
I
that
was
day.
listening. And she caught me out there. But still, what you said before, what you were talking about is that if you're transparent with each other, then you don't have to do all of that. Just come out straight and say, this is where we are. And I do have a big pride part of me that always wants this the way it is. Now, the reason why she took it from me is because I keep going down to the penny. So I want to know how much gas is used by the end of the month. I'm talking driving. And she doesn't want, and I'll just be honest with you, I make what I make, she makes what she makes, right? So I make what I make, and she makes what she makes. And she's at a point where she doesn't want me to tell her how to spend her money. And I said it in an attitude type way because that's the way she says it to me. But I trust her now. And I have to say that, right? Because trust is not just with money, but it's trust all the way across the board, right? Why we say it's communicating and what it is that, I don't think we really trusted each other when it came to finances or other things. But now when you pull everything together and you say, okay, this is what I want to spend this on. Like right now, she's on vacations. She's planning vacations all the way up in 2026, 27. She's planning vacations. Right. Because for her, when she goes to work, she wants to know that that's coming up.
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
makes it easier for her to be.
I'm gonna look forward
What
to
I don't like is that for those vacations in 26 and 27, monies are coming out to pay for it. Instead of, I want to pay for the vacation right now, and then we know that it's coming up. So we still battle with little things like that. Stop coughing in the audience. I want it to be done so right away. I wanted to know that it's paid off, and we'll move on from there. So even though I think we're going to another phase, there's going to be another phase that's coming up, and I think the last phase, or this phase is coming up, is going back to the first phase. Except for the savings. The savings is going to be there, and I think it's going to go back to one pot. I think so. I hope she's not listening, but
Can I ask a question about savings
Yeah.
and the whole rainy day? Is there a difference between putting aside money for a rainy day and secretly setting aside money just in case things don't pan out the way you want to? You're not transparent about it to your partner.
You make it sound like embezzlement. That's what it sounded like. It sounded like he's describing embezzlement. That's what-
Marital embezzlement.
Amy, you said you had an example.
Oh, yeah. I actually found this scenario where I'm going to try to make it short, but basically the husband and wife, they don't have any kids, and she decided to be a stay-at-home wife, and he was making like six-figure salary, and everything was working great, and he had like a near fatal accident, and he had to go to the hospital, and the bills piled up, and so now he is working full-time jobs and Ubering on his off days and trying to stay afloat, and she's still at home, because they had agreed she was going to be the wife, just a homemaker, yeah.
She
So anyway, she
McDonald's. She got to go to McDonald's.
so anyway, what she was saying is that she had like this escape fund or escape account where she would take out money like every month, because she was the one who was handling the finances. And when he went into the hospital, she started taking out $200 instead of the $750 that she was keeping on the side. And by the way, her mom said that this was a good thing because it's like
What
a
Marlena
rainy
was
day
saying.
escape
Yeah.
fund
Yeah.
in worst case scenarios. So now the husband's like, okay, we need to downsize, and she's like, I don't want to downsize because this is what I've been doing. I made this house a home, whatever. And then he goes into the finances, sees where they can cut back, and finds out that she's been taking money for years.
Divorce.
And now it's like $47,000 that she had.
She did pretty good.
And well, sorry, 4,700. Sorry, not 1,000. 4,700.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
And
That's still good, but yeah.
but anyways,
4,700.
no, 47. I'm sorry, 47,000.
Oh,
It was
47,000.
I'm getting
Doing it for
confused
years,
with the zeros.
$750 a pop?
That's good.
Anyway, so he felt some type of way. He felt like she treated him like a predator and hid the money from him.
Yep.
And he said I don't know if they're still together. This is just a thing that I found, and
they're
it was
not
going
together.
viral on Reddit. But she wanted to know if she was the jerk in the relationship and if she was doing the wrong thing.
No.
So I heard a similar story out of the Caribbean. So but let me just say to the gentlemen and gentle ladies in the room, the Lord will always send you signs. The Lord will send you signs.
Come on, preacher, don't do that.
Scam likely.
I got a presentation for you.
Yes, sir.
Got a presentation for the Lord will send you signs, and it's often our egos as men that I can take care, and she's a kept woman, and she doesn't have to want for anything, and we can. But you also have to look at her character. Is she someone who can step in the gap when things
Get tough.
unfold,
Yeah.
right? When things get tough. So the Lord will send signs. Now, what she described to me sounds like embezzlement. And
Her
we're gonna have
mom
to
actually said that was like the best time for her to use the money now since things were getting rough.
Bad advice.
Now here's the thing.
But to use the money to help out or for her
No,
escape?
for her to
To leave.
escape.
See?
wow.
Toxicity.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that 47,000, he's gonna make more in his lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Once he gets back. So if that's what she needs,
She can go.
she could have had more, but she settled for the 47. So that's your word. Then go about your business. But we gotta.
Hold on, we have a line. Who's next in line?
Oh,
We'll go over here.
ahead.
Okay.
Jackie, then say, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh boy, GP.
Hello. So, when GP and I got married, we had like one account plus our own as well. Same bank, but certain people had access to the others. We could change back and forth, withdraw. More so me, because I did the financing part, and he liked it, so that was great. So when we had Elizabeth, who's not on the podcast today,
You missed her.
Maybe.
I decided that, okay, I have a baby, plus I was having some health challenges from the baby, that I would stay home and, become a domestic engineer for a
Yes,
short
yes.
period of time.
I like that.
A domestic engineer for a short period of time. And so I was still handling the finances. So what I did was not embezzlement. In my account was I paid the bills. I put his taxes away because we do our taxes since he is a minister. And then I would put money into a separate account where no one had access to it but me, just in case something happened. Where it was like that money's not going to be missed because this is what we have after. And I'm not talking savings either. I'm talking this is what went to savings, this is what went for taxes, tithe and offering, and this over here is in case you blew a tire, something happened to your car, you
Emergency
have,
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
He
it
knew
was
about it.
entitled not emergency fund.
Okay.
But he knew about it, right?
No,
But
No.
Finding out
Go
today,
ahead.
GP?
Oh my.
Well,
no. And we
today,
had
not
the
today.
emergency fund,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when tax season rolled around, when we had to move, with Allegheny East Conference, and that makes us look like we make more money than we did, which makes our taxes look like we have to pay a little bit more. When those bills came around, that little hidden fund
Came through in the clutch.
came through in the clutch because it looked like we made $200-some thousand, when indeed you make like 52. So that hidden money where
Yeah.
nobody could pull and say, well, hey, let me put new tires on my car because the tread is lower. That would be emergency. That money came into the clutch. So it wasn't a hidden thing. It was hidden for the offset that the emergency fund isn't enough.
Yeah. So you both,
But
you both were aware of.
I was aware of the account,
But
I handled the finances. But that account was not my own for an escape route.
I had access to the account too. So.
Okay.
No, but here's the thing. It's trust.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a trust thing.
Yeah.
So
it's a
he
trust
knew
thing.
that if some money was missing from the account, which I handled the finances, that he knew that money was probably in a safe place
Right.
or went to something that
trust.
we needed.
Right.
You know, but it wasn't sitting there where somebody could say, okay, here's $5,000. I want new tires, or here's $2,000.
Fair.
I want a new couch,
Right.
or here's $1,000. Oh, it's Black Friday, and I want a new TV. That money
Can we
does
pass
not
the mic
exist.
to someone else?
So what that is loud. So what I was gonna say was kind of like with her, like what the good woman should have done was I think she should have flipped it to be like, nah, I was just saving this for a rainy day.
And it helped out.
Right?
And
But
then-
Why are you worried about flipping things?
yeah, because but but that also it showed her character. But then also, some of us need to stop talking to our family about our money.
Talk.
Oh boy.
Because her mom is influencing her to do something deceptive. And I get it, you know, as someone who's, if you're like at home and you may feel like you don't have anything of your own, and so it may give you a bit of security. So I get that side of it, but I still think that could be a conversation with your spouse still. Because even if it's like, well, okay, I'm sure if she asked or if they had the discussion, he could have been like, all right, well, every month, you know, you take out this and you do whatever you want. And then she could have been building up her 47,000, whatever. And if she truly loved him, or if I guess she understood, like I think there's probably some trauma there, you know. But if she really loved him, I think she would have seen it as something. Well, hey, love, I have this, you know,
Right.
little emergency fund here that we can, you know, put towards.
So can
you know?
you say that again, like, hey, love? something happened. Something happened to Miguel when you said, hey, love.
'Cause that's what I call him.
Listen. That honey's not for
Yeah.
you, my brother.
Can I say that
Good point.
I'm just going to be real with it. I heard exactly what she said. One of the things that Elder Jones, when we had our counseling, said if you're committed 100% to the marriage, divorce has to be off the table.
Right.
It
Right.
cannot be an option.
Right.
The fact that you have an escape plan, that's not telling me that you're going to invest it in it because you called it the escape plan, which tells me that if something gets really hard between the marriage, you want your way out. Like she said, her mother said, this is the time to use it.
Yeah.
So she can get out. So her mindset, the whole from the beginning of the marriage,
Right.
is that you want 100% invested, which breaks down communication, which breaks down everything that you're talking about because you're not invested in there. So that's just how I'm hearing it. My wife got an escape plan. It's going to be an issue. I'm just saying.
Jackie.
I think the guy was pretty hurt.
But also
yeah.
the issue was the man was down for
Yeah, he was
medical
down.
purposes. So
And he
you're
was
not
struggling.
marrying me for poor and in sickness, right?
Yep.
You are marrying me for wealth and goodness at all times. And so when things got bad and he needed, you know, some assistance, she was banking and she should have used that
Yeah.
She
to
did
help,
say-
you know, take care of husband. I mean, you don't want somebody that just loves you when all is well, and then they don't want you when things go poorly.
Even help him out.
She did say she was taking out 200 instead of
So she could
750.
Yeah, she cut it back.
She was,
She
I
cut it
think
back.
that was her way of trying to help out somehow.
Yeah.
I think also he didn't want her to work, so like that was another thing too. Yeah,
Working, baby.
but he was struggling and he had 2 jobs and doing Ubers on the side, and
I think if both parties are committed, when life starts lifing, you got to do what you got to do to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got two.
I think for that scenario that Amy pointed out, I think that's what goes back to character. It's just kind of like, if that was my family and I have all this money saved, I'm going to make sure that all of our bills are paid so that when he does get well, prayerfully that he can go back to work, then he's back where he started. He's not hustling to make a living because I had this fund, but it wasn't my fund. He might not have known about it. You know, and I see some people are uncomfortable about that part. But sometimes when you are maybe a domestic engineer and you're not having your salary, you want to make sure that if anything in life happens, you have a nest egg to help out your family.
Yeah.
Because it's not just you alone, it's your family,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
children. And this is a little side note, that means, you know, you want to make sure you have your life insurance policies.
Yep.
You want to make sure that you set your children up for
Yep.
success.
Now she gonna murder us.
You know, so that we're paying those bills, that if
Yeah.
something ever happened to Justin or myself,
Libby's
that
a millionaire.
Elizabeth is a
Oh, yeah. Multi-millionaire.
multi-millionaire,
Yeah.
which means somebody's going to take care so that she can have a fighting chance to do what she needs to do if the Lord delays his coming, which I hope he's coming soon. But it's in place.
Right.
Yeah.
You're doing good, darling.
Yep.
I feel like I'm
Sable.
setting me up for another scenario.
One of the things that I heard about this scenario, or I would call it a case study. First of all,
It's real though, it did happen.
It's real, but you know, as a financial professional, a licensed financial professional, you can't tell individuals what to do in their homes. However, in every home, there should be budgeting. And in this case, it's a classic example where they did not have income protection. So for example, with a critical illness, let's say he had an accident, right? Let's say he
Yeah.
couldn't do 2 of the activities of daily living. They could have had an emergency pool of money they could have used. And, you know, Sister GP made a great point. You know, as a licensed life insurance person as well, I like to say Sister GP because
It's good.
you know, it makes him feel good. But one of the things that I realized that in every household, you need to have 3 things. Income protection, which is that scenario you talked about. Debt elimination, which is what you all talked about, the debt. And legacy creation for baby GP.
That's right.
Now, most families don't have that. So, and it's not because they can't do it, it's because they don't know. And most people don't pay themselves. So, what if there was a way to pay yourself while you eliminate your debt? You see,
banking.
what's happening, exactly. So the thing about it is, with that situation here, I mean, I think trust is paramount. And for example, people always talk about, I mean, I would have never signed a prenup because I just don't believe in it. But however, there's Adventist lawyers, Doggett will probably back that up, that some people do for protection.
Yeah.
Because you're the ministers, more than 50% of marriages, even in the church, ends in divorce. However, but you made a great point, there should be no escape route for divorce, but divorce, because life happens. And all of you need to Google Life Happens. It's an agency that talks about those kinds of scenarios.
You know, my wife was a domestic engineer when I first started working as a pastor. And I would come home, she got the 3 kids on the floor. I'll never forget the day I walked in. I'll never forget the day I walked in. There's a day that I walked in that I'll never forget. And I said, what do you do all day?
Those fighting
Mercy.
words. That's fighting words.
You survived, bro. You're still alive.
I think you still feel the
Still alive.
wound.
Yes, you got a
you
little-
still feel.
still feel it.
That's why that one eye hang a
And,
little bit lower.
and you know what? I'll never forget that because she will remind me, and not remind me to get at me, but after the first couple of months from there, then she got her big government job. I mean, her big government job.
Yeah.
Big.
And because of our timing as pastors are concerned, you have your kids. Now I'm home and now taking care of them, right? And it's like, you know, she'll come in, She walk in, she look at the place, crayon on the wall. I mean, like a total disaster. I mean, spaghetti coming off the ceiling, all of that. And she's like, oh, so you've done what I've been doing all of us. And the thing is that, and I want to go back to the finance part of it, is that it has to be a level of trust.
Yeah.
In it to be able to, because when you made that statement just now, I know we always just like, what? But no, if you trust them with the money, let them do with it, because it really should be the smartest person, or not the smartest, it really should be the one who can handle the bills correctly and do what they need to do. And I think that's where it is. I also commend you in the pastoral work for taxes. The taxes, we don't pay the taxes as we should. It's only a couple of years ago that I've decided to take out this amount of money out of my check because we are self-employed, right? How many of us didn't realize it until now you're paying $25 and $30 and $40,000 on top of it? But going back to your question and what you said before that I want to share is that if the pastor or the elders are not financially stable, your church won't be financially stable. So when I said it, I meant to end it by saying that if you're spiritually there, you're only as good as the leader. It's also financial. Because you could be in church, and I'm happy at the little tiny church that I'm at that has over $500,000 in his bank account.
Yeah.
But then the thing is that if you have people who are on that board who are not responsible, they're going to come out now and say, yeah, we need this, get it. Or we need this, we get it. If you do it in your home, you're going to do it in your church.
Yeah.
And if you do it in the church, you're going to do it in the home. So we really have to, and by the way, 10% belong to God. And the 90 belong to God. Don't get it mixed up that the 10 is God's and the 90 is yours, right? He gives us enough health and enough strength and enough whichever to be able to do what we do with the 90. And in the 90, if you're not returning the 90 to help someone in the community or to help along the way, then you're still wasting God's resources either way it goes.
I know we can't.
Your mic, your mic though. It's not on.
Yeah.
So we are going to wrap up soon. We do have a couple more comments from our audience, which we will take. But before we go, I do have a couple of we have our little fan paddles. I'm going to ask the panel a couple of questions, and we're going to use our paddles in a bit. So get them ready, guys.
Okay.
All right, another comment from the
I
audience.
did want to say that. I want to camel hop off of what Pat said over there.
Man, over there.
Camel.
GP, are you with me?
So I would, the 90 that belongs to God, and the 10, but you also have to remember that 5% to keep your church up and running.
Yeah.
Because the lights still have to stay on there, the bills still have to be paid there, and that's that money that helps fund that part. So it really becomes 85-15, because you can't talk about just the tithe that belongs to God, because if the church is running, how you're running your house is how you're running the church. You got to remember you still need to have those funds to pay your light bill, your water bill, your whatever other bill that you need, and have an emergency fund there as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there. As that aspect as well.
You're right.
Can I just say one little thing, though?
Sure, go ahead.
Please, not a case study, Amy.
I did have one more, but I decided not to share.
Okay,
it.
go ahead.
I'm not married, but I.
Yet.
I was about to say. I'm with you.
But I fully believe that even if you have two people who decide that one person should take care of the finances, I think that it's also important for the other person to know what's going on in the finances as well. I even though trust is there, and I totally believe, I will trust the person, with the finances if they are the ones that's going to take care of it. I also think that if you do have trust, that both of you will be able to look at what you're doing together and then, come to decisions together.
Mm-hmm.
And and I totally believe in having a budget. I have a budget myself.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes I don't always follow it. I mean, it's quite hard sometimes to like be very specific about every little thing that you're spending. But I do think having a budget in place is very important in seeing like how much you can spend in the wiggle room and like how much you think you can save, you know, with your paycheck. And I do believe that everyone can save something, even if it's like $50 a month, you're still saving money. And I think that that's important. And you never know, like he said, that something could go wrong and you might need some tires and you don't have that money. And you can't always put everything down on your credit card because that's going to
Credit card are demons.
That's going to, you know, change a whole dynamic. Yeah, like
Curse right there.
and I don't know much about credit cards. I only have one because I'm building my credit as well. You know, I'm new to the States and we don't have credit where I live. But I want to be financially secure, you know. So I am just like, you know, I'm doing what I can to make sure my credit card is like as low as possible, you know, still using it and having my budget and everything. And, you know, like I think that's where you're at when you're not fully there with your spouse or anything yet. Just wanted to
So quickly before we go to our audience and then we have our Q&A, there was a thought that you brought up and Pat brought up, and it's the idea that we want to work towards something, right?
Yeah.
No one wants to be, no one wants to check in 9 to 5 and you're dealing with people and the crazies. All right, you're dealing with the people and the crazies, you're dealing with your boss, you're dealing with traffic, you're dealing with parking, you're dealing with to do that day in, day out without knowing the end goal, right? And not seeing where your money's going and not knowing that you're adding to something, I think that becomes, you know, it becomes an extra weight. And so, you know, making sure that you're a partner, I think we had an earlier question about the teaching process, just knowing that you're a part of the solution and that you're moving towards your goal, whether that's a vacation, you know, whether that's, you know, knowing that you're paying a bill, you're being a responsible adult. Everyone wants to feel good about their efforts and want to know that they're adding value and not just, you know, lynching or leeching off of someone else. So, yeah.
Also, I do a lot of automatic payments. I don't know if anybody's down for that, but that helps me so much. I don't have to think about it.
If
Yes.
you're not disciplined, it
And I
doesn't
know
work.
what's coming out, so I'll see it come out of my account and I'll be like, okay, well, I know what that was. And I don't have to worry about not paying bills on time and all that stuff. Just so you
I want to punctuate something you said earlier, Amy,
Yeah.
about the other spouse, whether there's one who's taking care of the finances, the other one knowing. There have been a lot of couples who have lost their spouse unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. They don't know
take care
where
of
their
it.
accounts are. They
Yeah.
don't know the account
It's tough.
numbers.
Yep.
They don't have access to anything.
Yep, they
And
find
talk
out they
about
got
that's
another
like
man.
added trauma.
Yeah, and that's why I
on
think it's
that
so
grief.
important.
Yeah,
for
and so
both people
yes,
to know what's
everybody
going on.
should know.
Find the sugar
where-
daddies and find all of that. Everybody coming to your funeral and.
Where are we doing Q&A? Or?
But
Okay.
before you go to them, I check my account. I'm a techie, and we're at Camc Con. I'm a techie. So anytime something comes out, I get the free trial, and then it charges you the next month. And I always say I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna cut it out.
That catches me too.
And this is at least 3 months ago because I still get allowance. But my allowance, I'm trying to find out why is my allowance being eaten up in this account all the time. I literally stayed a whole month and started counting the $4.99, the $10.99, the $9.99, and till it came up to really a little bit over $200 a month that I didn't see coming out all the time. So when you say discipline, you have to be disciplined to the point that if you even do the free trial, set an alarm to tell you it's time to cut it off or whatever it is. I was literally paying about $200 and something a month on things, on tech stuff that I don't use.
There's an app that I use called Rocket Money. You can pay for it. It's like $4 a month or
Here you go,
something.
free
Another
trial.
payment.
It is it is another payment, but it's really good in like keeping track of your finances and like where it's going, like subscriptions that you
That
you
get
don't
lost.
even realize that you have. And sometimes you can actually go to Apple. Well, this is what I've done before. When I have done free trials and I've forgotten about them, I would go to them and I say, hey, I wanted to end, like I didn't want to do the subscription, and they'll give you your money back.
Yeah.
Most of the time it
that.
does work. So that's just a little tip.
Okay, so just a couple of questions, guys. So if you agree with this, you raise your hand.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is it all of us?
Yeah, all of us,
Okay.
even the audience.
Check,
All
check,
right.
check.
So actually, this is one of those either or.
Oh.
Okay. So in most relationships, there's usually a spender and a saver. So I'm going to ask us to identify ourselves. Are we brave enough?
Can you be both?
I would say I'm both.
Okay. Choose one side or the other. Which one do you lean more towards, even if it's 60-40? All right. All the spenders, raise your paddle.
I spend.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
No, I
6,
would-
7, 8.
I spend, but I also save.
Okay.
I'm
All right. All the savers. All right.
Halfway up.
I'm 50-50, I think.
I do both.
It's about half and half.
Yeah, I think I'm 50-50.
Exactly.
It's about
I
half
agree
and
with
half, and that's what they say. That
Save more than we spend. Yep.
yeah, I'm a saver,
I put a little $2.
but I spend.
It's in my ashtray.
If I'm thinking about it, I probably spend
Yeah,
more
yeah,
than
yeah,
I
yeah.
save.
Okay, here's one. Yes or no? Who is in favor of a prenup? Put your paddle up.
Kinda depends.
GP, we need to chat
It
It
kind of
does depend.
Oh, wait,
but
hold on,
I
hold on,
wouldn't-
hold on.
Okay, all right, let's
Okay,
hear it. I'm
okay.
sorry, I know we extended. This is an extended show.
It does depend, but
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, you
Okay.
mean like when he was on TV and
So,
I think if you have like a complicated, like you have businesses and
Yeah.
And houses and
houses
land.
and yes,
Blended families, yeah.
other
Blended
people,
families,
yeah,
okay.
like things you have to take care of. I think a prenup might be.
That's
an
good.
some of us
okay
are like,
thing,
okay,
ask the question.
but
Okay, could you
I'm
ask
not
that
in favor
again?
of that.
but they have
That's a
post-nups
little
too.
bit,
They have
okay.
post-nups, so even if you are married, it's not
I've
too
never
late.
heard
No,
of
it's
that
late.
one. Okay.
Okay.
All right, that was good. All right, the other one was, do you feel that it's okay to accept money? I know there's a lot caveat, but just accept money from family.
Depends.
It
I've done that.
depends.
Just a
Right.
time or two. Emergency.
Accept money from
That
family.
one's hard.
That can be the
No
tricky
sense.
part of that. Yeah, is
It's
that
paying it
sometimes-
back.
It's got to be paid
Sometimes family members use that to hold it over your head or want to have influence
Question
in your
is, should we
relationship
give money
because
to-
of the money.
to family. That's a
Or
question.
saying, how did you use the money, and then telling you why you used it all the wrong ways.
It depends which family member it is.
So when my wife and I moved to Virginia and we were buying our first house, we had $80,000 down, and there was some extra costs that came up from everything, the whole process.
costs,
And we ended up borrowing $10,000 from my parents in Florida, and we were like, yeah, we're gonna give it back. And life started lifing again, but they've been gracious towards us. But I'm really gonna pay it back soon.
Before you
But,
die.
you know, they never hung it over our heads. They never brought it up when they saw when they saw us in person. They were just like, they were cool about it. But I can see how, you know, it can hang over you, and it can be a tool that can be manipulated if you owe somebody something. So it's never good to be in debt to someone.
Especially if they see you going on vacation and they see
And
sailboating, right? Sailboating. Where did you get that boat from, right?
and also being in debt to someone else too. I think that.
Yeah, anyone.
Like.
Is that the last one?
All right, yeah, that's last because we have to wrap up, guys.
No.
But this has been great, and
It's
I just
fun.
want to give a special shout out to our live audience. The first guys have been amazing.
You get a car, you get a car.
If only, if only.
Yeah, this is the first of
Oh,
more to
wow.
come.
I don't know about
We're
that
gonna
one.
do our
Tosh, maybe you have to tell them that we're talking about taking the Upset podcast on the road.
On the road, we are. We're
Coming to your churches.
Yes,
would
yes.
be
So invite us,
kind of
invite us.
cool.
Also, I also want to give a shout out to all of those who attended Camc Con over the weekend and purchased our Upset merch. Because now we voted as a crew that we would wait till we accumulate, we would donate in $500 increments. And our pot set at like $250, so we were waiting to get. I think now we have enough where we're ready for our next donation and another one because of the generous donations and support of our Upset merch. So we will be sharing, we will be benefiting from your donation very soon. So thank you for all of that.
And let your audience know that.
Yes, I will. We will let you know. Last time we gave to a student at Pine Forge Academy.
That's right.
I was saying I know graduation is about to come up, so we may hear more of those requests come in for people to clear to graduate.
Going to
so
college.
I'm thinking that might be the next
Yeah.
one again. But if you have another situation you want us to be aware of, let us know. All right, guys, it's been fun. We have to do this again sometime. Thank you guys once again for sharing. And remember, we'll see you back here next week. Same time, different place.
Yeah.
We'll be home.
We'll be home.
Well, we'll still be on Facebook and YouTube, so same place. Because if it's Sunday,
It's
the Upset Podcast.
thank you guys. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye, guys.